Hi everybody, my name is Kyle, and today I want to welcome you to RedisConf 2020 training. This session is really important. It provides you some context and some ground rules to understand what's going to happen today, so I'm glad you joined me. And please stick with me to the end because there's some really important information in the final couple slides. So let's go ahead and dive in and talk about how the training is set up. Now, first things to know is we have on-demand trainings and live Q&As, two different things that are occurring in parallel. Let's first take the on-demand trainings. We have 15 different sessions today covering different topics across the spectrum of Redis, whether that be using specific data types to running clustering. These different sessions are all there. Now, many of these sessions have hands-on components, most do, which we'll get to at the end of this block of the training. They are presented by experts. These people who are doing this use Redis on a daily basis, and they really do have a perspective where we're really close to it here at Redis Labs. And then most of the people here are Redis Labs presenters, but some will be experts that we've gotten in the community. So keep that in mind. We'll talk about those more a little bit later. These are self-paced training modules, so if you need to pause at any time, just go ahead. If you need to attend something into your life, you are not on camera, and there's no pressure here. So do it at your own pace, learn, rewind, do what you need to do to get the most out of the information. These stuff today that we'll be talking about is Redis centered. We try to be language agnostic. That does mean that some of the stuff today we'll be presenting will be just at Redis CLI. So keep that in mind as you take this back and start applying this. It should be a pretty small leap as you go and put these into your applications that you're building that use Redis. But this should be something where, with a few exceptions, we're trying to keep this as centered on Redis as possible. Where we have to, for a particular use case, we'll bring in a programming language. But for the most part, it is a Redis-centered language agnostic training. Now, let's talk about live Q&A. This is distinct from the on-demand trainings that we have today. The live Q&A happens on May 13th, so if you're watching this a little bit later, know that it happened on May 13th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific. So the way this works is you can ask questions via chat, and then we'll respond in the video. We do have some questions that we'll be asking just in case people are a little bit shy, but for the most part, these questions will be coming from the community. So keep that in mind and same with any questions that you might have. But they are by appointment, so do check the agenda on the site today. Now, let's dive into the different sessions. I'm going to talk just a little bit about each session today and then how to use them. Now, Redis 101 is a session that I'm presenting, and this is basically your getting started with Redis, and this will serve as a basis for any other sessions. So this is great if you've never used Redis before. Going down the list, we have probabilistic data structures with Guy Royce. Guy Royce is on my team. He's a very entertaining presenter, and today he's going to be talking about probabilistic data structures, which are these data structures that trade some sort of deterministic quality for some performance or something really interesting about them. So Guy Royce will tell you a lot more about them, but they are fascinating. Then we have time-based Redis. This is where we're going to talk about time series and streams. Also on my staff is Loris Crow. He is a complete expert in these topics. But really everything here is going to be talking about how Redis can handle data that does have some time component to it, whether that being with time series, for example, aggregating based on time series and recording measurements, or streams where you're taking time associated data and being able to read through that to set up something like a microservices architecture. I'll be presenting also Intro to Redis Search. Redis Search is our full text search module. And if you've never used Redis Search, go ahead and go to this session. It's a lot of great information. Now, my colleague, Kyle Banker, there's two Kyles involved here. There's a lot of Kyles at Redis Labs for unknown reasons. But Kyle Banker will be presenting the developer certification cram session. So Redis Labs offers a developer certification, and this is a test that you would take. This cram session gives you the information that you need to know to start down the road to take this exam, and then have something to put on your resume or on LinkedIn saying that you are a certified Redis developer. Loris Crow will be talking about clustering, active-active, and durable Redis. This session is really tuned for both operations and developers, but it's going to talk about clustering from the perspective of open source and enterprise as well, how active-active works, which is an enterprise feature that allows you to have geo-distributed databases that resolve conflicts. And as well, a very important topic, how you can use Redis in a durable fashion where it isn't losing all the data you stored in it when you turn off your machine. Simon Prickett will be talking about data modeling in Redis JSON. Simon is one of the instructors in our Redis University system, and he has a lot of expertise about how you can take problems that you might have with data in a normal application, and then model them with Redis built-in data structures or the Redis JSON module. Event-driven, right behind Redis, which is an introduction to Redis Gears, is by one of my colleagues, Elena. Elena will be talking about how you can use one of the newest features of Redis, which is Redis Gears, to be able to create trigger events that happen when keys change, to be able to use right behind caching, where functionally you're writing to Redis and then writing to another database, so it kind of flips some things on its head. It's a really comprehensive guideline of how to use Redis Gears and what it does. Jamie Scott, another of my colleagues, is going to be talking about Redis security best practices. And if you've been paying attention, Redis 6 was perhaps the largest release in Redis history. And part of that huge part of the release was all the security features that come along with Redis 6. So Jamie will give you an overview of the best practices in Redis in general, and then also how to start implementing those new features that are available in Redis 6 and Redis 6 Enterprise. I'll be talking about advanced topics with Redis Search. Redis Search is a gigantic module in our ecosystem, and I could probably spend a whole day talking about it, but I will give you a good overview in the advanced topics section. So if you are going to go to this one, go ahead and go to the intro first, unless you have a pretty intimate knowledge of Redis Search to begin with. Loris, again, will be talking about transactions and Lua scripting. Transactions in Redis are a really important topic, especially as you start using Redis as a primary database. And then Lua is the built-in scripting language that enables some of these transactions and enables some really neat tricks that Redis couldn't do otherwise. So make sure and tune in for that. And then we also have Intro to Redis Graph by Guy Royce and the Redis Graph team. Guy will take you through the presentation, and then the Redis Graph team will be available in the Q&A. So Redis Graph is a really great graph search engine or database engine built into Redis through a module, and it will blow your mind at what you can do with it. Just totally different things than what you've probably seen Redis do. So let's move on to some special sessions that we have. We have 3 special sessions. These are presented by external speakers that we've contacted because they have great knowledge in specific fields, and we'll talk about how to use Redis in them specifically. We have Alex from Facebook that's going to be talking about using PyTorch and Redis AI, so Redis Artificial Intelligence, for image recognition. Very fascinating topic. If you're at all interested in AI, I think this is a good one for you. Along the same thread is Introduction to Machine Learning with Spark and Redis by Scott from Twilio. Scott is just a fantastic presenter. He's presented at some of our events before, and he's going to do a pretty good introduction to using machine learning with Spark and Redis together. And it's really a fascinating look at what you can do with it. And this is a really good session, especially if you have never really used Spark before. This will actually get you into that pretty well as understand how Redis will fit in that ecosystem. And then finally, but certainly not least, we have Chris Richardson, which will be talking about distributed data patterns for microservices using Redis. Chris has been around forever in the microservices realm, and he presented a similar presentation last year at RedisConf, which was an in-person event, and boy, that one you shouldn't have missed. And this one is a really great one too. So if you did miss last year's, go ahead and listen to this one. So one thing I do want to note here, that one has a very limited number of seats. I think we have a fraction of which we can hold in capacity for the rest of the training. So if you do want that, just know that you'll actually be taken to a separate site. Coupon code, it'll be totally free, and it's geared towards Redis, but it is limited in what you can, the number of people that can participate in that. And there's lots of reasons for it, but lots of good reasons for it. But just know that we think we can handle the majority of the people who are interested in it. But if you come a little bit later and it's sold out, that's the reason why. Now, I have thrown out all of these 15 sessions at you. Let's talk about how you start this. Now, a few different ways you could really approach this. 3 different groups. New to Redis, used Redis before, but you want to level up in one way or another, or you're a Redis expert. So think about which bucket you fall into here. If you're new to Redis, the great place to start is Redis 101. That will serve as the basis for every other thing that we're talking about. If you've never used Redis and you jump right into one of the other topics, you may be really lost. So Redis 101 is the place to start out. Now, if you've used Redis before, which a lot of you have, and you want to level up, go to any other session that you really want. These sessions are not necessarily building, with the exception of the Intro to Redis Search, or excuse me, the Redis Advanced Redis Search. You want to take the intro first, but everything else is pretty baseline. You'll be able to jump right in. Regardless of what it is, we'll give you the tools you need today. Now, the other thing I want to know is, once you finish, I want you to know is that once you finish Redis 101, then jump over to any session that you want after that. Now, the kind of third bucket of people is that they're Redis experts. This is really good because you can kind of sample things, but I would suggest that you do go to any other session that you want first before you do a Q&A. So make sure you kind of view the session that you're looking at. The one thing we don't want the Q&A to be is to answering the questions that are already told in the trainings. So make sure that you check out the session before you go to the Q&A on that session. Okay, now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the learning environment. Today it's really great. We have a platform called AppSembler, and this platform will allow you to experiment with Redis without having to download or install it or use Docker or anything like that. Now, some of the special trainings that we have, the 3 that I showed earlier, they will require some extra setup, so just be aware that they won't use this environment. So the first thing you need to do is go to bit.ly RedisConf 20 training. The URL is on the screen, and that will forward you to another page that you can see here. There's in the URL bar actually is the other URL if you need that. Now, you'll need to enter your email address. That email address is just a unique identifier here. This is not, AppSembler is not going to email you. So don't think about that. That's just to identify you. And if you have any problems, it's really important to know, your session will always be associated with that email address for the extent that this learning environment is available. So if something's not happening and something that's corrupted, you can go ahead and start another session just using a different or a variant of the same email. So just know that you can do that. It's a great way to problem solve. Occasionally things do go awry with this platform. Now, once you've entered your email address in, you're going to get to a screen that looks a little bit like this, the learner dashboard. You're going to go to the area where it says launch. You should only really have one option here. You click launch, the button will change to deployed, which will be disabled. You can't click it anymore, and then you're going to click open. At that point, you'll be presented with a screen that looks like this. It's a split screen. The top part is an IDE. We won't be using it much during these trainings. We use it for some other trainings, but it is a good scratch pad. So if you're starting to do anything and you want to kind of manipulate some text, copy and paste some things, feel free to use that. The bottom is the Linux terminal, and the Linux terminal is where we're really going to be doing things. And this is your own instance of Redis that we'll be giving you for the extent of this training. So actually 2 different instances, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It's there. It's for you to use. It's not shared with anybody else. It's a really great opportunity to have something that you don't have to set up, which is always super easy. All you have to do is go to this web page. Okay, so we have a couple different things here. A couple reasons why we did this. We wanted to make sure that the Redis 6 security was available, so we wanted to have a clean version of Redis 6 because Redis 6 security can really challenge people with some of the other things. So you have 2 distinct versions of Redis running in this environment. If you want to get, for most sessions, you type Redis CLI and you can begin interacting with Redis. Now, for the security session where they talk about Redis 6, then you'll want to exit out of the standard Redis CLI session using Control-C or closing the window and coming back to it, and then run Redis 6 CLI at the Linux prompt. So if you accidentally close your browser, just know that it's all there for you if you want to come back to it. So pretty simple. All right, folks, I want you to have fun today. This is a unique opportunity for you to learn a lot about Redis, and make sure you go to those Q&A. Thanks. Bye-bye.